Okay, so, but I think there is one game, one announcement that's kind of overshadowing all this other stuff. Everybody seems to be talking about it. There's a lot of buzz. Rodney and Tom were playing it earlier today. I sat in a panel about it. Tell us about it.
Sure, so we've got our upcoming game that does not use miniatures. It's a big departure for us, right?
So it's an or not.
It is an or not, exactly. It's the or not. Although they're trying to change that, I think, at the last minute. But for the most part, it's an or not. And it's XenoShyft, and it's a card-based game that we think is bringing something different to the deck builder genre. And the reason why we think that is because you have your standard deck builder tropes of as you play the game, you're getting more cards, you're getting better hands. But it is a fully cooperative game where 4 players are trying to defend their base from these kind of angry aliens as they're strip mining this planet.
All right.
And it's a lane game where you're basically doing tower defense like you would on a computer game.
Oh, cool.
Right. So what makes the game interesting is that not only are the mechanics simple where your cards are basically, this guy does attack, my Marine does certain attack and damage, and the alien has a certain attack and damage. And they kind of math out against each other, similar to something like Hearthstone, where he does 6 damage, he has 5 health, he's going to kill him, right? He does 3 damage, and this guy receives 3 damage from it. So basically, it's very simple when you are resolving how the mechanically works across, which is good because it means it only takes about 5 minutes for you to really figure out how the game plays. But there's layers of depth that we have inside of that, of buying upgrades, getting special items like grenades, and having other items like the medevac, which allows you to save a guy's life and then move him over to another lane, right?
Right.
And so basically you can help a guy out, pick this guy up, and then move him over to your lane. So you've saved this character's life, but you've also put him in your lane. There's a lot of strategic elements for that, but it does allow for you to basically steal a dead character. And because when the characters die in your lane, they go back into your deck. So similar to a deck builder, I'm building my deck, you're building your deck, but we're working together to save our base from the aliens.
So it's basically a deck building game with a tower defense mechanic and a sci-fi theme.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Fantastic.
And it's brutal, it's super hard. The first couple of turns aren't terrible, but as you get to the second wave, you start realizing this is a hard game and I've really got to work together and I've really got to think about what I'm going to do. But the best part about it is the alien cards, you only ever see the alien card that you're currently fighting. The other ones are face down, even though they've been dealt out. And although it's a kind of a simple mechanic, when you flip that card over and you see what's next, that reveal is a moment for everybody playing, right? So it's that surprise, even though it's a simple mechanic, it really changes the flavor of the game, right? And so we have that game pretty much finished mechanically, and so far the reviews from here are very, very positive. People have loved it.
Right.
Yeah.
And in fact, the demo table has been busy the entire time that it's been going. I haven't had a chance to sit down. Now, some of your guests for the con, Tom Bassel,
Yep.
Rodney Smith, and even a local game designer, Steve Avery,
Yep.
sat in and played this morning, and I talked to the guys afterwards, and they lost.
Yeah.
And they said it was brutal.
Yeah.
Rodney was telling me that he got to the first wave and it's like, oh, this game is nothing. And then second wave, it's like, whoa. And then third wave, it's like,
Yeah.
everything just kind of blew up.
And there's a clever design there because you want to teach people how to play the game in the first wave. You want to show them it's going to get hard in the second wave, and everything that they've been doing they should be investing wisely, buying resources, buying technology, collecting resources and buying technology that's going to help them for that final wave. It's a nice ramp. It's a smooth ramp that indicates to players like this is going to get hard. This is how the game plays, and one of the nice things about it is when you lose, when you flip that one nasty alien over that destroys your lane and does a ton of damage to your base, you go, had that been a different alien, or had I had a grenade, we would have been all right.
Right.
And that gets you to stand up after the game ends, look at the board and go, okay, and sit right back down, because it's that moment of going, the chance of what I drew, and if I had invested a little bit more wisely, get you to jump right back in.
Right.
And we usually play 2 to 3 games back to back in the office.
Wow. And how long does the game take?
Between 30 to 60 minutes, because if you play well, I think about an hour, again, that depends on the player count.
Right.
If you play poorly, you're going to die pretty fast.
Speaking of player count, how many people can it play?
Plays 1 to 4. It is fully cooperative, so that means you can't play single player. The way the game works is every person adds 15 life to the base. So if you play single player, you have 15 life. It's a good way to learn the rules and kind of experiment, but you probably won't make it through the full 3 waves. 2 players to 4 players is a little more manageable.
Right. So I talked to some of the guys that demoed, and I asked them, I said, what's the difference between, say, Zombicide, which is a swarm of zombies trying to take out the party, and this game, which is a swarm of aliens trying to take out the party? Because I thought, when I first heard, I thought maybe it sounds the same, and they were saying, no, it's totally different. They said the theme's totally different. You got a bunch of scraggly survivors trying to survive a zombie apocalypse, and over here you've got like military men with all their equipment that are trying to fight against the defense. Plus, they said the mechanics are totally different. One's a deck building game, and the other is kind of a move and roll type game.
The thing about the game that's very clever is that you start with a militia card. And the militia cards are basically untrained workers who have picked up a gun to fight off the aliens, because there's a mining company on another planet, on an alien planet. So your militia guys, which is all you basically have when you start, are just ragtag dudes with guns. They're kind of like your survivors from Zombicide. They shouldn't be particularly well trained. And then in the next few characters you buy, the Rangers and the Paratroopers, and getting up into the Ajax. The Ajax is this giant battle suit that shoots missiles and fires guns, this kind of mech armor. You get an Ajax, and it wipes out 3 aliens. It's the difference between the movie Alien and Aliens, right? Alien is this kind of horrific moment of like, oh, this is so scary, and these people stand no chance. And then in Aliens, there's parts where you're rooting for the Marines because they're just blasting people away, and you're having this, awesome time, this action movie time. And when you buy that one big unit, that turn feels like that action movie where you're like, how far is this one guy gonna carry my lane against these 4 brutal aliens that I've got? And so there's times where everyone's cheering because you bought that one guy. He comes down, the first card you flip over, he destroys it. The next card you flip over, he destroys it. And the third card, it just destroys him, and everyone's just like, oh my god, like he made it so far, right? So again, it's one of those things where the tone of the game does change based on how you're investing, but it has a nice ramp of like really interesting and simple at first, but I'm using these kind of weak guys, then I'm using these kind of mediocre guys, and that's when the game's real tense. But I've saved up and I've bought this one awesome dude who's going to tear up the aliens for a turn, and it's really exciting, right?
So how does the game change from game to game? Is there some sort of randomized mechanic with each game?
Yeah, so when you actually pick you sit in front of your lane, and what you actually pick is a division of the base. And your division has a special power, so the med bay gets special bonuses to healing people, the armory gets special bonuses to using grenades and guns. And so basically that determines what special ability you as a player are going to have and what kind of cards go out onto the board.
Okay.
And again, it's as with any deck builder, you're building a deck, and we have these kind of slots of, you can buy weapons, or you can buy the guys who use the weapons, or you can buy armor, or you can buy grenades and stuff. And so it's a little bit of a random element of what gets dealt into those slots, as well as what part of the base you are, what division you are. And so all of that does a really good job to keep the game fresh, as well as the fact that you have these random aliens, and that they're always being dealt face down, except for the first one. So you never know what's next. Even in your first turn, you never know what's next, right?
Right, and I guess it sounds like with the way that's built, I guess the game does open itself up for expansions in the future, with additional powers, new monsters.
Yeah, so some of the things we've talked about is other aliens. There's a possibility you'll have other aliens. And the Hive was very cleverly designed. That's the current alien race that's in the game, as being a certain kind of direct damage and prolonged damage, like kind of debuff. That's the kind of skills they have. Future aliens might have something that does things like they always directly deal damage to your base, or maybe they'll do something along the lines of like, they don't do particularly bad damage to you. Some aliens don't do bad damage to you immediately, but they have prolonged effects or something, right?
Right.
That's the ideas we're kicking around right now. We put all of our interest and time into making the box that you're going to get immediately as awesome as possible, but we do have really cool ideas for the future. Even things like having other corporations, because you're playing as the Nortec Corporation.
Oh, okay.
Having other corporations that, now instead of these guys, you play as these other guys that have different abilities. or even having something where you flip the script and maybe one game you get a pack of aliens and you're playing as the aliens and the game is playing as the Nortec guys.
Wow.
So we have ideas that could happen in the future. We're still playing with those. Right now, our time and interest has been invested in making the box copy amazing, right?
Right. And speaking of which, so this is going to be a Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Can we expect to see it soon?
It should be very soon. Depending on when you get this video out, people should be expecting it within days, maybe, because we've I know for a fact though we've already put out one trailer that says May of this year.
Okay.
So May has got 5-6 days left in it.
Right.
So yes, it's going to be
close.
soon. Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Close. That's fantastic. Well, you start out the segments like, hey, a game that doesn't have miniatures, but when I hear that, it's like, oh, not the cool miniatures, but I also, in my mind, I hear or think lower price point.
Yeah.
Than maybe something like Arcadia Quest or a Chaos Ball base set or something. So I'm assuming that this base game will probably be cheaper just because it's mainly cards.
Yeah, so it's going to be cheaper. It's going to be, I think we're thinking around $60 right now. It's going to be a cheaper price point, but one of the things people like about us with our miniatures is that we make these high quality, really attractive miniatures.
Right.
We take that aspect, that aesthetically pleasing part of our games, and we put it in XenoShyft. The artwork has got to sell you on the game, right? I can sit here and talk about mechanics on all day, and sure, hardcore gamers are going to love those mechanics, but when I'm walking through Gen Con or CMON Expo, what's going to make someone stop and look is a really cool piece of art and maybe a nice game board, right? And that's what we have, which out of the box we have this nice big game board that has your places for all your cards to go. And then on top of that, we're going to have the awesome art that is in the cards, which the aliens look amazing and the Marines look amazing. When the cool thing about it is, one guy did all the aliens, one guy did all the Marines, the Nortec troops.
Right.
One guy did all of that for the aliens, and one guy did all the Nortecs. So it's two guys. All the art looks consistent, and what's cool is that those two guys have worked together before too. So their style is very complementary, and when we hired them, one guy was like, so who's doing your aliens? And we told him, and then he was like, oh yeah, I'll kind of work on my style a little bit to get it, because I know what his aliens are going to kind of look like. And then we told the alien guy, he's like, oh yeah, I know what his troops are going to look like, so I'll kind of change my style. So there's just a tonal difference between the two, because you want ones to look kind of cool, and you want the kind of bright action-looking movie from your troops, and you want that kind of dark and scary from the monsters. So there's a little bit of difference, but it looks like they all take in place in one consistent universe, right?
Now, speaking of which, does XenoShyft take place in an existing universe, or is it a brand new universe you built?
So we are hoping to tie all of our own IP. So not stuff like Zombicide, because we don't technically own that, we just publish it. But anything that we own, we would like to make everything take place in one universe. And so in this case, the United Worlds is where Nortec exists. And if anyone who plays Dark Age knows, the United Worlds is 500 years. Dark Age takes place after 500 years after the United Worlds have fallen apart. So this is like future lore, basically. Or Dark Age is takes place in the future of the XenoShyft universe, I should say. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Fantastic. So the Kickstarter is going to be coming soon, and I assume that with being a card-based game, that it probably may come to market quicker than some of your other Kickstarter games that had a lot of miniatures, just because production's quicker.
Sure. Yeah. Because most card production is a month or 2 to 3 months for large print sums and cuts, and then box design. Miniatures take months and months and months and months and months. So it will be a quicker turnaround time, so the delivery date will be sooner than doing something like Arcadia Quest or Zombicide, right?
Okay.
So we're very happy that people will have this game by the end of the year.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, so XenoShyft, that's the big announcement this time.
Yep.
Fantastic.